President Biden recently slapped 100% tariffs on electric vehicles made in China. Biden says that tariffs are needed to protect American automakers since China unfairly subsidizes manufacturing and then dumps excess goods on foreign markets like the United States. Tariffs also cover other products, including semiconductors and solar panel. So, Sarah, how does this square with Biden's climate goals? Shouldn't we, want to have more zero-emission vehicles in to meet those goals?
Well, yeah. I mean, on the surface, it does seem to be in contradiction, right? In order to have a rapid adoption of green technologies like EVs, solar panels, we need to drive down the prices, right? Because that is a barrier to adoption. However, I think if you look at it from a sort of longer term, medium and longer term perspective, these goals are not necessarily incompatible because you need to look at the support for the green economy, right? And what is the coalition that will support that project moving forward, which has to be a long-term project to fight climate change. And you need labor, you need people on the ground to support this transition. And one way to do that is to make it work for actual people on the ground. The green tech transition can produce jobs in the South in EV factories, right? Good labor union jobs. So we need, to some extent, to ensure that the public sees the benefits of these policies, these subsidies that Biden has enacted under the IRA. And then those politicians will see the benefit too because their constituents are going to be arguing for the continuation of these policies. So over the long term, you create a coalition that will support the policies going forward. So I think temporary and very targeted tariffs on some of these products could help us get to those medium and long-term goals.
I think it's more than temporary. I think it supports a longer-term strategy of bringing jobs back to America and making it more acceptable and able for the businesses here to run versus putting their businesses somewhere else. So it is about building off of what Trump did in his administration and putting tariffs in place. And the Biden administration took that plan and they adjusted it to help his agenda, which was green energy. Yeah. And if we're going to go green energy and then give all our jobs outside of the United States, doesn't make sense.
That's one of the points that is a little bit, sort of head slapping in a way, because we've known for a long time that a transition was going to have to happen, and we used to be leaders in some of those green areas and are not anymore. Michael?
I mean, tariffs have had a very interesting history in an American context. You go back to 1930, I think it was Hoover, the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act that was supposed to protect American jobs. It didn't. We think about Bush in 2002, the steel tariffs that lost 250,000 American manufacturing jobs. We think about Obama 2012, his tax on Chinese solar. That didn't help American jobs. But I mean, we're in a different place now, right? We have to think about issues of national security. We have to think about the global supply chain. We have other nations that subsidize tariffs. So I mean, all I can do is wish the president well and see what happens down the line. But these are definitely big stakes in an election year for sure.
It's definitely not a fix-all. It's just one lever that he can pull to help nudge things in the right direction for the United States.
So, Nina, Michael's suggesting that tariffs don't do what they set out to do and end up hurting us in the long run. So what's your take?
Yeah, well, I can certainly see that they would potentially help with the enormous trade imbalance that we've been talking about for quite some time when it comes to China. And I can also see, although Michael was talking about manufacturing and jobs, I certainly see the impact on consumer prices because most of us seated at the table probably have a whole bunch of stuff in our homes that's made in China. And with the advent of Amazon, a lot of that stuff comes from China. However, most of it doesn't have to do with essential goods. So I think we can do okay with these tariffs.
So it's the essential good nature of it that makes it acceptable, then not tariffs in principle.
Right.
And now we should say just briefly that President Trump, if he becomes President Trump, has plans for a much even higher tariff rate, more of a blanket approach to the
Across
tariffs.
the board.
On all
Across
goods
the board.
from
And
China.
Biden's a
Yeah.
little bit more targeted.